Welcome to Warhammer 40k Darktide, in a universe filled to the brim with dimensional horrors and many ruthless enemies of the like. You play this game fighting against the most dangerous enemies of them all, people who disagree with your religion. This game takes place in a post-Brexit London where the only ones left are addicts to a variety of sussy substances or hyper-religious zealots. Although unwillingly, our characters we play as fall into the latter category. Speaking of characters, we have 4 to choose from, which can roughly be chalked up as war criminal, racist, fat, and schizophrenic, all of which were inducted into the said religious zealots under threat of being murdered and are only sent down to clean up London because everyone else up here doesn't want to do so themselves. So, let us begin. Unexpectedly, one of the first things I'm asked to do is to create a character using a pretty in-depth character creator system. So of course, I create the most horrid abomination imaginable. I introduce you all to Mirtha, a 6'6" tall psycho lady, who, due to the side effects of, being able to do this, is a tad bit insane, hearing voices in her head that she uses to justify all manner of dastardly actions. But instead of seeking therapy, she instead follows true tier 3 Twitch sub fashion and enters a parasocial relationship with the voices and refers to them as her beloved. My character gets woken up on an Empire prisoner transport bound right to London, where I get rudely taunted about my coming execution. Then out of the blue, the crackheads mentioned earlier raid the ship and do a little trolling. Thankfully, this allows me to flee my cell only to meet up with my captor from earlier. Because I have something called morals, I don't decide to end her life, and instead assist her in living to fight another day. Now we get the sense of the Darktide trademark horde-based gameplay, where your frames go from 100 to 40 the moment groups like these even spawn. Finally, after fighting off the horde, I am then inducted into the Imperial Inquisition, tasked with destroying the heretics on the planet, thus beginning the true schizo journey. Now we begin the actual gameplay loop, which consists of making these space racists trust you by risking life and limb completing missions on the planet below. These missions have many different variants, such as kill thing, do thing while killing thing, kill, this thing. Point is, there's a lot of killing, but it's alright, because they don't believe in the same god we do. That covers the shooting part of this looter shooter, but of course, trust alone doesn't keep the lights on. So how about the loot? Well, this game also has you covered in that regard, as after every mission, you have the chance to gain one item at random that will almost certainly be a downgrade. But not to fret, you can instead buy loot at the shop for in-game currency for now. And for a bit of perspective about the loot progression, I'll tell you my experience. I started with this rinky-dink shovel and shitty laser rifle, but as a literal space wizard that can make people's heads go, I felt it wasn't really my style. So after a couple levels, I switched to a magical staff that shoots and makes enemies feel mild head trauma, and a sword that can take my piss baby energy and make people go. As said before, the missions all vary in content, map, and difficulty, which can all be accessed and changed from this map. Wait a minute. And, like that other game, these missions also have very diverse modifiers, such as more enemies, less enemies, low light, and fog, which honestly just makes the game look shit rather than make any actual difference. There are also 5 difficulties in the game at the moment, for which I have not gone past difficulty 3, as I have a chronic illness called being shit. Please help me, it's actually a very serious condition. However, after you've chosen a mission, you now get faced with an even greater issue, and that's the people. I can only describe the people who play this game to be on the spectrum, myself included. Which one, I'll leave up to you. In one game, you'll be matched with a dude named Ron Muntman, who actually used his microphone, holy shit, and participated in one of the cleanest runs I have ever been in. Or you can be put together with a group of absolute monkeys who are consistently on the other side of the map from you, but sometimes you'll meet real characters like Oog. Oog is a very special soul, an Ogren brute who can crush heads with ease, but can't spell his own name properly. Every time I was down, I would always hear this lovely creature call me and pick me up, even within the grips of death. Frankly, Ogren players are probably the most well-adjusted people who play this game, but then on the contrary, you have zealots like Istvan, Zealots have a very funny character gimmick, and it's that they hate everyone, especially abhumans like Ogrins, which makes Oog very sad. They hate people who don't believe in the God Emperor so much that one of their weapons is a fucking flamethrower, making them, yeah, also very well adjusted. Finally, you have veterans like Harkin, and what can I say about veterans? I don't know, they're just kind of boring. Gun go shoot, throw grenade. I really want to be a space marine. Please, God, just make me a space marine. Throughout the conquest down to London, we find a cesspit of death and corruption, and along with the regular dregs of society, some of these dregs have very shiny equipment, making them a lot more dangerous, like the Trapper, the developer's BDSM self-insert, who wants to net your character so that they can do sussy things to you. You also have the Bulwarks, Crushers, and many more specialists, which make the missions really fun to deal with. And with the high density modifier, you can just make things even more fun. But on occasion, there will be a mission with a particularly interesting mini-boss style enemy that varies from being a complete joke like the Plague Ogren, or absolutely painful like the Beast of Nurgle. But the worst mini-boss of all is by far the Demon Host, a mini-boss that is completely avoidable with the slightest amount of brain cells. However, as you should know by now, I am not one of those people. The only upside about the Demon Host fight is that after 2 player deaths, it is content in the damage that it has caused, and decides to fuck off, leaving your hopefully more competent group members to pick up the pieces. Overall, the enemy design in this game is pretty fucking good, and once you get to the later levels, you really feel like a menace, slicing through multiple heretics at a time. Though I wish there was a bit more of a reward to killing these things, other than the equivalent of a golden star. In later levels, however, Merthyr was not feeling right with the shitty force sword that was too single target, and the staff that actually killed things. So I switched it up a bit, introducing you to the best weapon in the game by far, the chainsaw. The chainsword is the best weapon in the game, hands down. Why? Fucking look at it. You can rev it up and chop people in half. It's fucking sick. Also, I changed my staff to be able to commit war crimes, so I mean, that's pretty cool. And that is my experience with Darktide so far. That's pretty much it. No further progression, no further classes or subclasses, and a lackluster story with something to do about an imposter.
There's a tree town.
It all sort of leaves a sour taste in the mouth, as the game itself is quite good, but for the price it's not at all worth it, especially since its literal only competition was another Warhammer game that the same company made. That's also nearly half the price for the base version of that game, and has far more in it than this game right now. Oh, and don't even get me started on the performance of the game. You can go to the Steam reviews to hear all about that. Overall, I would have to rate the game about 7 Ogrins out of 2 racists. The game isn't particularly bad per se, but for $65, especially with the lack of content and the dicking around in settings to make this game look like it isn't being run off a toaster, I wouldn't recommend it at the moment. However, the moment that the devs allow my character to Fortnite dance while being roared by an eldritch abomination, that's when this game will get a 10 out of 10.